man, this is going to, all right, I'll introduce it and then we'll get into this show, which I suspect is going to be very meandering because I did not do any sort of research ahead of time.
I did pulled up 2 stories each, and that was it.
Nice. Oh, good.
So
Then we're already a step ahead of what I thought we were going to do. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to People Are Terrible. Glad that you decided to stop by and join us for another episode. It's Sunday again, and we are going to do our best to provide you guys with some entertaining content. I don't know if it's going to be informative, but like we do, we're going to talk about some of the week's weird news headlines. Hopefully find some good Florida man stuff this week, and then we're going to each discuss a topic that we've pre-picked out ahead of time. I think we got a couple good ones this week. Mine is discussing the CES tech conference that just now happened over the weekend, I believe, where a lot of different tech companies unveiled plans or concepts for inventions that may or may not be available in the future. I'm not real sure what the fucking purpose of this convention is, other than to, I don't know, create headlines. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about Ricky Gervais's opening monologue at the Golden Globes. So I think we both got thoughts on those, and we'll circle back around to it. But before we do get there, make sure that you guys are subscribed, that you're liking the videos, and that you help us get the word out by sharing the videos. My 2020 resolution was to get us up to, I don't know, I'm going to set it right now. We want 100 episodes, 100 views / listens per episode starting now. Go. That's up to you guys that are watching and listening
are you
now.
saying that's just on YouTube? Because I think we're hitting that when you look at all, but barely.
Yes, I was specifically talking about YouTube. Ideally, I would like to set the bar at 100,000. But
I would
yeah.
let's just get to 100 subscribers on YouTube too. That would be pretty phenomenal.
Wait, hold up. We're not at 100 subscribers on YouTube?
Dude, we're at like 80 subscribers.
Oh, God damn it, man. What are we doing wrong?
Well, so I know for a fact, I'm pretty sure when they went scorched earth on like news stuff, and we were tagging stuff news, and some of the stuff we talk about is a little controversial because I saw drastically our subscribers just stopped.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
we are right in the we're in like the, what am I trying to say? The worst territory for growth that you could possibly be in, because every one of our topics are the things that immediately set off red flags that they're like, oh, we're going to have to go through a check and make sure that everything they talk about in here is okay for corporate sponsors. It's not.
Because we have so many corporate sponsors.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all on fucking YouTube in the first place, man. This whole predicament is because of YouTube in the first place. Marketing to children. They knew it was wrong. They knew it was wrong.
Illegal. It was their fault.
Yeah. We're better than you, YouTube.
Well, that's very true. We're not as rich, but we are better people.
All right, so you said you got one or two pulled up for each. Give me a weird news headline.
Yes, I got weird news and I got some Florida news. Let me get into there. All right. Let's see ya. So this one I thought was funny. I haven't read these. I just saw headlines and clicked on them.
That's the best.
Cat lovers less likely to go to church, research suggests. A U.S. study finds that those who never set foot inside a place of worship own 2 pets on average, while faithful worshipers have 1.4. So let's see what this gets into. Churchgoers are less likely to own a cat than an atheist, partly because some of the latter see cats as a god substitute, according to research. Okay, that's weird.
I'm very confused.
So they're saying, partly because churchgoers are less likely to own cats than atheists, partly because some of the latter see cats as a god substitute. I don't know that. So owning a pet is said to replace some of the benefits of joining a faith community. And while cats are, quote, pretty low maintenance, we end up serving them a lot, an American academic has pointed out. A study finds that more than 2,000 people in the United States found that those who never set, we already got, they're repeating that. It's also noted a strong negative association between worship attendance and cat ownership, adding that frequent worship attendees and the most conservative angelics report owning fewer pets. Who created this survey too? Like who researched this?
I didn't get the questionnaire, but I'm a cat owner that does not attend church.
I always was a cat owner, and I never attend church, and I still don't attend church, and I have no pets, so I don't know what you know.
It's a weird, a weird hypothesis to even have.
It's like a weird thing that you care about. That's why I thought it was so funny.
Yeah,
Uh, Professor Perry. Now, this is something I actually kind of do agree with. Professor Perry added that pets were, quote, in some ways substitutes for human interaction.
yeah.
That I agree with.
So maybe that's just it. Maybe like people, but how many other variables are involved in these studies? Like, are we talking about single people living at home that have a pet or not have a
Yeah.
pet? Because I can understand if you're an elderly lady and you have a pet cat, you could get some sort of like social interaction, not the same as with a human, but you get some sort of social interaction with another living creature. Where if you're an elderly woman and you don't have a cat, you may have to leave the house to get any sort of social interaction. So,
So that's his hypothesis. He says people who are heavily connected to a church of faith community already have plenty of social interaction. I mean, I have a ton of social interaction, and I don't go to church. I mean, I also know like hermits who, I mean, who stay at home but only go to church too. You know, it's
yes.
just a weird thing, especially when the difference is it's not. I mean, I guess it is. It's faithful. So atheists own two pets, while faithful worshippers own 1.4. It's not that huge of a difference anyway.
Wait, so atheists own more pets?
Yeah, which that doesn't shock me.
No. But
Like,
why? Why is that?
so here's my theory, and I've said this just in general. Liberal people tend to be a little more pet people, like a
Yeah.
little more animal people.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you're an atheist, you're going to be a little more liberal, tend to be, you know. I'm one of those people who was an atheist who was more conservative leaning. I'm the outlier, not the average. And I feel like it's the same thing. Like when you meet people who love pets, they're more likely to, in my opinion, I mean, there's no research out there. They're more likely to be like, I don't really like kids. It's that same sort of thing, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, that's
Like
fair. I
like it's a temperament thing, and which people who don't like kids on a whole tend to be a little more liberal as well, you know.
Mhm.
And I just think it's a mindset thing. I I don't know. It's a weird thing, but I do agree with like the atheists owning more pets doesn't shock me in the least.
Nah, no, I fit every one of those like kind of preset requirements. I am an atheist. I own a cat. I own a dog. I'm liberal. I tend to kind of fit
And,
into the box
and
there.
and look at me, like I'm a newer, like still struggling with my faith type of person. Like I go back and forth, but I don't own any pets. I am more conservative. I have a child. Like I fit
Mhm.
the other thing.
Yep.
It's weird too the way like you really think about. I I think there's more personality types, and there's obviously a, a spectrum of on the political spectrum where you fall some things, but in a whole there is that more like liberal versus conservative mindset, and you can almost see it in branch out into things like pet ownership.
I will say though, as somebody who grew up in a primarily rural area, that a lot of the anybody that I know that
True.
owns a farm, anybody that I know that has any sort of livestock, and you don't even typically you're not going to consider your livestock, your cattle or your fucking chickens pets, but they'll have dogs, they'll have
You're
cats to
very
chase
right.
the
I
rats and all that kind of shit, you
totally
know.
blind totally forgot about the whole giant rural conservative group that like makes up a huge percentage of it. I totally forgot about that group, and they usually do have a dog or a cat.
They tend to have different relationships with their pets, though.
They're less my babies with them.
Yes, it's more of a utilitarian thing,
I would agree with that 100%. That I do agree with.
and that's cool. I wish that I was a little more like that. I respect the person that's like, yeah, my dog died, and it's a dog, and that's what dogs do. Instead of like, we'll probably do like a Viking fucking funeral ceremony
You
for
know, fucking
ours.
shoot arrows at it.
Yeah.
I cried though when my cat died, man. I'm not gonna lie. When my cat Buddy, who was 25, 26 years
What?
old, died. Yeah.
God damn. Are you sure that's
Old
not Guinness Book of World Records
dude,
numbers?
isn't that insane? The oldest bastard. He was just, and they finally actually had to put him down because he was like getting so sick. You know, they were like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, they. My mom called me up and she's like, "What should I do?" The doctor says we can put him down, or his kidneys are failing, and we can give him like 4 shots a day every day. And I'm like, just put him down. Like that's no life. A cat.
No, he's got he got his mileage for sure.
Yeah.
That's an awesome
No, he was like
lifespan.
25 or 26. So literally pretty much my entire life. He died last year. So pretty much my entire life, most of my life, this cat was around. Crazy. So I
Buddy?
did cry. Huh?
Buddy?
Buddy, which very
Buddy.
fitting name.
Ah, see, that's cool. Did you have one of the he was obviously a friendly cat.
Oh, he was awesome. You could pick him up. You could hold him upside down. He would just sit there. He would walk with you outside if you wanted to. Like, he was super cool.
Yeah, Reese is like that. And I work in an office that decided they were gonna take in a stray cat, which is weird to me. So
Yeah, it's
my
very weird.
office has a pet cat now, and I like the cat a lot. It's super friendly. It's like love driven. Like it doesn't really care about toys or treats so much, but it loves getting pet. So like people have ideas even about what kind of personalities cats have, and there's even a fucking wide spectrum there. Some cats don't want to be messed with. Other of them love attention.
I also noticed a lot of people who are like, I hate cats. I had a cat. And I'm like, a lot of people do this with a cat. They do set it and forget it, where they're like, I got a cat. I'm going to throw it in my house and just let it run around. But I'm going to give all this love and attention and training to the dog. And then they're like, the dog's real sweet. And I'm like, well, yeah, you don't see any difference in the way you interacted with them. Because my cats were always awesome. But I also pet them a lot, played with them a lot, trained them, did all that. And cats can be super dope, but you got to put in the work like you would a dog.
I'm not aware of any cat training schools where I know 4 or 5 people that personally train your fucking pit bull for you, but nobody that will do cat training. That's like, it's just not a thing we think about. But yeah, I don't know. There's a couple things that I saw this week that stood out to me. I don't know how weird of news this is. And you know, we'll talk about it later. I did just now see though that Joaquin Phoenix got arrested. I think
I saw that too.
This could kind of tie into my thoughts on the Ricky Gervais thing a little bit later, so maybe we'll hold out for that. All right, well, give me another. You got another weird news headline?
Yeah, Georgia man breaks into Taco Bell, prepares food, and then takes a nap.
Dude, didn't we have this same story with like?
Oh, like a Florida man?
And like another, it was the same fucking story. It was a different state in a different restaurant, but it was the same fucking
like
thing.
KFC or something?
Yeah. All right, so what happened to him?
So, in Lawrenceville, Georgia, Taco Bell wasn't open on Christmas Day, but a burglar in Georgia decided he wanted a festive feast anyway and to take a nap while he was at it. So, police have identified, apparently he's at large. This guy's at large.
Oh, look out.
Police have asked for the public's help in identifying the man who broke into the restaurant, prepared food, and then fell asleep early Christmas morning. At 12:15 a.m. on December 25th, a man approached a Taco Bell in unincorporated Lawrenceville and entered through the drive-thru window. Surveillance video showed him using the fryers to make himself a meal. After eating, he proceeded to take a nap on the restaurant floor prior to leaving about 3 hours later. The suspect stole a laptop and a tablet, investigators said. The suspect was described as a black male wearing black sweatpants, a black hooded sweatshirt, and black sneakers. Anyone with information in the case, call. So,
wow. He's at large, extremely dangerous, obviously.
Extremely dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, dude. I guess that's what you're gonna get out of a Taco Bell. I'm sure you tried the registers.
Yeah, probably. You know, I'm assuming he did.
Why not? You're in there. I don't know if they keep cash in those things.
I mean, not over probably Christmas break. They're probably in a safe, you know?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I feel for him. It's just like, it sucks. People are hungry out there, man.
Another story, unless you have one, I have one more.
No.
Two men accused of gluing, this just popped up, two men accused of gluing winning lottery numbers onto lottery ticket.
Okay.
Authorities in Mississippi say two men attempted to scam the state
Yeah.
lottery commission by submitting a losing ticket that had the winning numbers glued onto it. Otis Latham, 47, and Russell Sparks, 48, were arrested on Monday and charged with offenses including uttering counterfeit instrument over 1,000. The state lottery commission called Flowood police about the fake ticket earlier this morning. Sergeant Adam Nelson said officers were told the suspects were presented an altered $100,000 ticket that appeared to have the winning numbers on it. The men, both of Columbus, were set to appear in court Tuesday. It's unclear if they have lawyers.
Yikes.
I just would love to see this. I picture it like with one of those like purple glue sticks.
Yeah.
That's in my head how this looks.
Let's see. They knew immediately that the ticket was fraudulent, as the Lottery Corp has systems in place which are able to tell if a ticket is real. No shit. Like, you can't pull that off. Like, I'm imagining like a voter's ballot. It runs through some sort of like Scantron thing.
Oh, 100%.
So yeah, alas, gluing the numbers together probably didn't look very convincing.
Man, I guess it's a some sort of scam. I feel like actual counterfeiting bills would be more beneficial than that.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a weak ass thing to get arrested for. Good try, I guess, but not really though.
Imagine going into jail and that's your story. They're like, what are you in here for? Glued lottery tickets.
The most ghetto way you could possibly counterfeit something. I physically like no going onto a computer and trying to create some sort of fake ticket that's like a replica. No.
No, this is the lowest tech fraud case ever.
So obviously you heard that Meghan Markle bounced and Prince Harry and her are heading to, well, they left and went. She's in Canada now. He's tying up some loose ends. I don't know what they're gonna do. Probably go to Hollywood or something.
So they bounced. You mean she split, or what's going on?
Oh, okay. So the royal family news that shocked the world on Wednesday. Oh, shut up. Hold up.
Yeah, I literally know nothing about this.
So Meghan Markle and Markle, yeah, and Harry have announced that they're going to step back from the royal family. And I'm not exactly sure what the main reasons are, other than that the tabloids, like the British tabloids, were not very kind to Meghan Markle. They were pretty racist about her. And so a lot of people that are black in Britain is like, that's the reason why she wanted to leave. Apparently, there's a tell-all Meghan Markle and Prince Harry interview that could be damaging to the royal family. So there's no official word on why they've left yet. However, they've made an announcement that they're leaving the royal family, which Harry was like the golden boy. Like, of the sons, he was the one in succession. He was the one that was actually supposed to take over. And people like especially Hollywood loved this couple. But anyways, so she decided she was going to leave to Canada while he finishes taking care of whatever. And then this interview is going to drop, maybe some sort of bombshell. But I'd imagine because it's right on the heels of that fucking interview that Prince Andrew did in regards to the Lolita Express Jeffrey Epstein thing. Do you remember that?
No. Okay. I totally missed all of this.
So, let's see. This guy, Prince Andrew, was kind of the fuck up. He was the brother of Prince Charles. Prince Andrew, and he did an interview despite the fact that his counsel was like, dude, you are not going to look good if you do this. He went and did a national interview on BBC that basically was trying to exonerate himself from being involved in the sex trafficking case and hooking up with like a 17-year-old girl. It did not bode well for him. In fact, everybody said that he came out looking way fucking worse than he did going into it. He said all sorts of things which were disputable with just fucking pictures that you could pull up on the internet. Like I've never done PDA. I've never had physical contact with women. It's not something that the royal family is able to do. And then cut to fucking dozens of pictures with them with socialites all fucking like grinding on them or him touching their ass or whatever. So anyways, I don't know much about the whole royal family shit. I never really cared about it. I understand America's had a fascination with it forever. It kind of got
I
Princess Diana
don't get
killed.
it.
No, yeah, I think both of us are kind of on the same page, and even their relevancy in the UK, they're way more of just like it's a holdover of a fucking time that passed a long time ago, but we love princesses and in American culture, especially in like Disney and stuff, and which is no surprise to me that they actually Meghan Markle's already signed a deal with Disney amid the royal exit. So she married into one of the most wealthy, influential, powerful families in the world, and then effectively was able to fucking extract the next person in line in succession to becoming the fucking Prince of Wales. And they're going to be, I would imagine, a very successful power couple, kind of similar to what I look at like Kim and Kanye or some shit like that, you know?
I just like that their people are calling it Megxit,
Oh, are
which
they?
is that's pretty it's a little clever. It's a little funny.
Yeah, I mean, there's this lady. This is the reason why I brought this up. Is she said that it was written in asparagus spears. This woman claims that she is an asparamancer and that she was able to see the future by throwing asparagus into the air.
Okay, naturally.
Her name is Jemima Packington. What?
There's no way that's her name. Her name is
Jemima
Jemima
Packington.
Packington.
Oh shit. And she says that she read some asparagus spears. Let's see. She's 64 and she's the only asparamancer and she's able to see the future by throwing him into the air. I said that already.
I'm updating my social media to say official the second
The
asparamancer.
That's good. When I cast the asparagus, it creates patterns, and in its patterns, I interpret. The vegetable reader said, explaining that she inherited the ability from her aunt, who read tea leaves and has been predicting the future since she was 8 years old. I'm usually about 75 to 90% accurate with my predictions. I go through my predictions each year and think, "Yep, that happened. Yep, that happened." The woman from Britain, Somerset added, or from Bath, Somerset added. Packington admits sometimes she doesn't quite read it correctly, but claims is never far off with her predictions. Among her previous prophecies, she said that she was able to predict Brexit, England winning the Cricket World Cup, and Theresa May being pushed out as prime minister. So, like, if you just say it after the fact, you're not. I don't believe you.
Yeah, you got to have this written down. It got to be in depth. You can't say like some, Nostradamus stuff where it's like very vague stuff where it's like a bird will hit two mountains and you're like, that was the trade towers. No, you need to be like, it's the World Trade Center. It's this.
Yes.
It's this day. That's the way I'm believing you.
Yeah. Okay. So for as far as for her broad 2020 predictions outside the royal family, she said she foresees. All right, let's break this down point by point. A real shakeup of major political parties. Kind of broad, kind of what you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sports and sporting personalities will be embroiled in scandals. Pretty good chance that might happen.
I say that's a 100% chance.
And concerns about global warming will again take center stage, but more countries will take action to minimize the threat to the planet. Very, very vague.
And they're all like pretty guaranteed things. Like I can do predictions like that, In 2020, Hollywood will continue to become more liberal.
Yeah.
In 2020, there will be movies made about social activism. There will be celebrities caught in scandals. And there will be a political divide amongst the two extremes.
You guys heard it here first. If any of these things come to pass, yeah, you're right. That's just it. And it's like if you wrote down a month before it happened that I read the asparagus and Meghan Markle is going to leave for Canada, and then that shit happens, and you can prove to me that you said it before it happened, I will be impressed. But there's no credibility to this story. I think the big takeaway is that somebody somewhere thought this was newsworthy enough to put it on the weird news, and now I'm reading it on a podcast.
I mean, anything with a Sparamancer is pretty worthy of being on the news.
A Sparomancer. That's a good. Yeah, nailed
That
it.
is amazing. It's so much better than a necromancer. I just wish a Sparamancer would be like someone who would like command asparagus to fight people. Like I
Yes.
wanted it to be like a class in a video game.
All right. So what? Let me see. We'll dig a little bit deeper into this royal family thing because I'm ignorant to it. This shit's all pretty much news to me.
Yeah, I don't understand the appeal. Why people are so. There's also this weird thing with Americans' obsession with Europe. You know,
Oh yeah.
Americans love foreign countries as long as they're the white one.
Yes.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just a real thing. Like Americans love Paris. We see Europe as like more enlightened. Guess what? They're a bunch of shitty people just like us.
Mm-hmm.
They just have an accent. Chill out.
They've had more practice. I mean, like we're just newer. I guess maybe that's the thing is that there's a lot more history and a lot more culture because they're older.
Well, and then the thing too is like they almost do like I feel like when you meet people, especially when they talk to someone from Britain or just from Europe in general, they almost act like oh they're more civilized, they're more this. No, they're not. Shit happens over there. Like you and me both know, as two people who are married to foreigners, I love my wife. Does that mean that every person from Zambia is a amazing person? No, there's shitty people there too.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big. Hey,
Hey, sorry, you cut out. What was that?
there's a broader conversation to be had just about like, oh yeah, people from Paris are so well. No, there's lots of different people in Paris, and none of them. Everybody's a little bit different from each other, no matter where you go.
There's gangs there too. Paris
Yeah,
has gangs. Like just
yeah,
think about that. Not, like it's a place on the earth, and I take the stance I think you and me do. We're all people.
yeah.
You know.
So
Like,
I got a question for you, man. I'm not super up to date with all of it, but what is your general stance on Brexit?
I don't really know enough about it to be completely honest. I haven't paid enough attention to it.
Okay.
I just knew when Brexit happened that it was like people seen as like the conservative wing taking over, and I knew people were saying when Brexit happened they were like people predicted Trump because of Brexit, but I don't know really enough about it to be
Yeah.
completely honest.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah,
I have no
because
real thoughts on it.
I don't care about most politics in America that aren't going to affect me. Why am I going to care about most politics overseas that aren't going to affect me?
The UK leaving the EU. So obviously, it simply comes down. It's mostly about currency. It's mostly about why the British are leaving the European Union. The EU is an economic and political union involving 28 European countries. It allows free trade and free movement of people to live and work in whichever country they choose. Britain wants to leave it because they feel like it will strengthen their economy. I mean, that's the big.
Well, then how's this seen as everyone I hear it's like super racist and all that? I mean, from as someone who's completely ignorant from that, what you just read, it just sounds like an economic ploy.
I think what they feel like and again, this is kind of coming from a place of ignorance, is that other people's immigration policies, and then also your more unstable countries like Greece, that their economic indiscretion will affect Britain's economic situation, which I don't think in itself is inherently racist. I think there's implications that can be drawn from that, but I think the idea behind it itself seems to be way more financial.
Economic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be like to me, like if they said, like right now, I think most people in America agree. If they were like, hey, we're going to tie our economy completely to Mexico right now, you know?
Yeah.
I would be like, no, I'm not really into that. That's probably not a good idea. If we're just going to, Mexico, it's going to have the same currency as us. We're all going to be tied together, because I'll be like, that's probably going to hurt our economy in the long run. That's not a racist thing. It sounds like it's financial.
But then there are, there is going to be all of that baggage attached to it, like people that have negative feelings towards Mexico for political reasons, it can bleed over into the way that they perceive the people. Well, why?
That's why
Because
I feel like
Mexicans are lazy, or you know what I'm saying?
it's perception, and I feel like it's on both sides. Like, I feel like there's people probably in Brexit who do have maybe those, as someone who's totally ignorant, do have maybe those racist undertones, and that's why they support it. But then there's probably other people who sometimes there's this thing where, like, the example I use is hypothetical, where I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't support that people because it's racist. You're like, whoa, I didn't even think about race. Maybe you have some issues with
Yeah,
race.
yeah,
You
100%.
like, and hearing Brexit, that's, I mean, from literally the most I know about is what he just read to me. I'm like, it sounds like an economic ploy.
Yeah, spearheaded by somebody who is fairly closely aligned.
Is he the blonde haired dude,
Yeah,
the weird looking guy?
yeah, the one that they had on video dogging out Trump like last week or whatever with
Oh,
Justin Trudeau and what's her ass. I shouldn't be
he's like
talking about
he's like an
politics.
even uglier version of Trump.
That's exact. Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Which is, I'm not saying Trump's a good looking man, but like, this dude somehow is worse.
There's a lot of there's a there's a lot of shit going on in the world to keep up with, and I don't know that I necessarily am qualified to even weigh in on it.
Well, that's like a story that people didn't hear anything about was, and the only reason I know it's my wife's country, they jailed two men, gay men, for 15 years because it's illegal.
Really,
Yeah, and so the U.S., um, like Trump in the U.S. was like, fine, you want to do that? This is humanitarian. We're pulling out all aid for your country. So the U.S. just pulled out all aid from Zambia because of it, and they're like, and the Zambian president came out and he was like, I'm not going to have the West force their ideals on us. This is our country. We're going to run it the way we see fit. And the U.S. is like, which I agree with Trump in the U.S. stance. This is a humanitarian issue. We shouldn't, we shouldn't allow people to be locked up for 15 years for loving another person. You know,
ideologically, I agree, but then what about all of the thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people that are going to be affected? I don't know how
I know
the aid that we are providing to them. I don't know that it makes it to the
it's
people. I don't know how much of it is stuck with corrupt government politicians. I don't know enough about it, but it's like
it's.
idealistically, I understand the decision, but is that supporting or is it actually going to cause much more turmoil?
I mean, we'll see how long they hold out before they do that to get these two men released. But I don't know. It's a weird thing. And then, like, the more liberal side of me, which is, so the more, here's literally where the two more liberal sides of me are actually going to come into to play with each other. So the more liberal side of me is like, you're jailing two men for loving each other. Get the fuck out of here. Like, because I support gay marriage 1000%. But then also you can look at the other, you can literally use the same ideology to be like, well, this is Western influence over another person's culture.
Yeah.
You can also, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Which is the stance that the president said. He's like, we're not going to have the West push their ideology on us.
Yep.
It's a weird, I don't know.
Yeah.
These are all interesting thought experiments.
Well, and it is a really good point, and that's the world has changed substantially with how connected everybody is now
Mm-hmm.
because culture itself has become something that's more global. But yes, what makes our morality and what we perceive to be right and wrong the definitive? This is what's right and wrong. It's a tough thing. I heard that like there are a lot more trans people in man, I'm about to say the wrong place. I want to say Tehran because homosexuality is illegal.
Yep.
So they will get sex changes so that they can be with men so that they aren't thrown in
Well,
jail for it.
and there's also, it's one of these Middle Eastern countries. Like, I saw someone arguing once. They're like, certain countries in the Middle East, the government actually pays for sex changes. I'm like, you didn't read the article very carefully. The government forces you to get a sex change if you're a man and you're gay, because they're like, well, you're not a real man, so we're going to take your dick away and force you to be a woman.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, that's not government being nice and funding
Yeah.
trans people. That's forcing gay people to be trans
Yeah.
through government. Like, those are two vastly different things.
And that's horrifying.
Terrifying. Could you imagine that? Like, being gay and then being like, no, you're gonna have to, we're gonna literally mutilate you because you don't want to be a man, so we're gonna take your dick away. Like that's terrifying. I forget what country it is. It's like the Middle Eastern country though.
I want to say it's I want
It
to
might
say
be
it's
Tehran.
Tehran. I want, but I this is me just again spitballing here, guys. I did.
Yeah, do not take anything we're saying as value without checking it, because we were just going off the top.
Uh-huh. So yeah, I don't know. As far as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle do, I think that she got to have her princess wedding. I think it's really crazy to see how because it was what were the ones? It was I was wrong by saying who the golden boy was. I was totally mistaken. Harry was always the one that was seen as the partier.
Oh, okay.
It was William who was the golden boy, and he married Kate Middleton, who, I mean, even her last name, that she is proper princess succession kind of thing. I look at these two as more like celebrities as opposed to like royal family kind of thing. So I think they're making the right business decision. I think she probably got inside of it and realized it was, probably gross and corrupt and all of the things that you just assume it would be from the outside. I mean, I would think any sort of like kind of monarchy like this or like royal dynastic families are probably all sorts of fucking fucked up. I mean, I would not.
I'm assuming it's probably like politics. I mean, it is, even though they don't really have real power. They're just figureheads. But it's about that whole high profile thing is probably all ugly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know, guys. Let us know. Let us know what the hell what I think about this, because I don't
Yeah,
really
we
have any
have no
thoughts on my
idea.
own. I do know that the most profound shower thoughts on Reddit this week has a list compiled, and we'll see if these are actually profound or not. If AI ever do actually rise up in rebellion. All right, you already fucking lost me. That is not profound. That is improper. If AI ever do actually rise up in rebellion, it's probably because they got the idea from countless movies, games, and books about the topic. I mean, that's fair.
That's fair. That's possible.
Like they're like, well, I guess we're like predestined to go Skynet because that's what everybody thinks we're gonna do anyways.
Yeah, they're like, okay, we should do what they actually said.
That ain't a bad idea. Manuals for TVs are regarded as useless, but in 5,000 years, they are as valuable as the Rosetta Stone. It contains the same text in over 20 languages and alphabets.
Yeah, that's actually kind of cool. It's kind of true too.
If society collapsed, Amazon warehouses will be fought over fiercely for being giant real life loot boxes.
That's also true. That if the zombie apocalypse, if you could get to an Amazon warehouse, you'd be set.
I find all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know what primarily it would be like vibrators and cell phone covers and fucking
Yeah. You know what you could do with a vibrator to a zombie?
yeah, fuck it.
So yeah, that's really all you could do with it.
Tom and Jerry are best friends, but Tom has to pretend to hate Jerry in order to protect Jerry so Tom's owner doesn't replace Tom with a cat that actually wants to kill Jerry.
It's like the biggest, like, you smoked a huge bowl conversation.
That is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Nudists must have trouble cleaning their glasses. Oh, I see. That's
I
kind of
get that's
funny.
funny.
Yeah.
That's a little funny.
The real winner in the Every Child Gets a Trophy is the trophy making company. Boom.
Oh, that's so stupid. That was dumb.
All these are dumb. A decade
all
is
dumb.
ending every second because a decade is 10 years no matter the starting date. Relatively
Well,
profound.
that is true.
All right, I'm done.
Yeah, you want to do Florida?
Yeah, let's move on to Florida.
Florida, there's a reason why I have this hat on for the Florida Man segment, because we have two Trump stories.
Oh,
and this is the closest
shit.
thing I have to a Trump hat. So we have one, and I sent you a video to this. I have yet to watch the video on Twitter. I just sent it.
All right, hold up.
Florida man gets 90 days in jail for spitting on Trump supporter in MAGA hat.
Ooh, nice.
A Florida man who's caught on a restaurant security camera spitting on a 67-year-old Trump supporter wearing a MAGA hat was sentenced to 90 days in Indian River County Jail. Democrat Matthias Hajple, I cannot say his name, Hajple, 43, was convicted of battering Robert Youngblood in an attack at Hurricane Grill and Wings.
What an
On
asshole.
October 3rd, walked around the restaurant. Bar. On October 25th, I actually walked around the restaurant's bar and told Youngblood, "You should go to back to Russia, you fucking communist." The liberal smacked Youngblood's head and spit on him. He got into the car and drove away. Police later tracked down Agipul down and arrested him, charging him with battery. He
What?
pled no contest, will also serve 12 months of probation and pay $700 in fine of court costs, another 155 in restitution to Youngblood.
What a fucking asshole. The spitter may need to cough up more cash for his victim.
Yep.
Youngblood has filed a civil suit against Agpul, seeking damages in excess of $15,000. The smoking gun reported. All right, so here's the video, you guys. Let's see what happens here. Got some audio playing. Do I? Maybe there's no audio in it.
You can't hear my audio, can you? Okay, good. Because right now I'm watching a Red Lobster commercial, and I don't think that's probably.
No, I'm watching a Walmart commercial. What the fuck?
Oh man, I think mine's probably better. Okay, now I got the video.
And it was like not even separated, like it was part of it. That was weird.
Yeah, you can skip it. This dude walks by and hits the hat, and then you see these guys just staring.
Wait, I gotta go back further. I fucked up. Oh, yeah.
I gotta take off his hat. Then he runs back over and jumps. What a pussy, man. Like an old man, real tough, bro.
Damn.
Like, it's so ridiculous, man. People can have different opinions than you. You're fine. It's all this political rhetoric that gets so amped up in the media on the left and right about everyone being whatever and this and, like it's so out of control, the rhetoric that we hear.
I fucked that all up, but I'm gonna have to go ahead and just insert it over the top afterwards. Let me look at the time. 55 minutes. I'll make a note of that real quick. Yeah, so I mean, the thing is here is that man is in every right to fucking wear a MAGA hat, as is the man have every right to not approve of it.
Yeah.
But you can't put your fucking hands on somebody, and especially like an elderly man who's like sitting at a bar with his elderly friends. Like, what are you hoping to accomplish?
And two, you really think this helps your side too?
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's terrible. And it's like, and let's be real, people who decides elections aren't liberals and conservatives. It's independents who decide who our president always is, And when they see stuff like this over and over, or when the right does crazy shit too, they do awful shit too all the time. Do you really think this is helping anything? Like, do you think it's helping political discourse? Do you think this is helping anything? Like, I don't understand the motivation here.
There's a real weird layer to this though, because I feel like that sentiment of go back to the country you came from kind of thing
is very what he's supposed to be against.
Yeah.
Like, you're literally it's the same thing I've always said with the and by no means am I the first, with the Antifa being anti-fascist who are fascist in order to be anti-fascist.
Yeah.
It's that mentality. It's like, go back to you go back to Russia, you communists, and you're like, dude, literally that's supposed to be what you're fighting against, is the people who are saying go back to your country. Which I think, like, the lack of self-awareness is just unreal.
I've been told to leave America I don't know, 4 or 5 times, like, in my life. Maybe once or twice on social media. Definitely once that I can remember at Paradise Bar and Grill on the 4th of July a couple years back. And, I was probably making some sentiments that didn't sync well with the patriotism of the particular holiday that was being celebrated. Should have kept my mouth shut at the bar. But, again, totally within my rights to fucking say whatever the fuck I want to say. And guess what? I don't have to leave the country for it. That's the thing, is I can criticize the government and don't have to be kicked out of the fucking country for it. That's one of the beautiful things about America.
I was at a bar once with my friend Jack, and we're sitting there and we're having this really in-depth, this was during the Obama years, in-depth conversation about politics. And me, obviously the pastiest white guy ever. My friend Jack, he's a black guy. So we're sitting there having this long talk, this, and this. And I'm actually, so Jack's former military, tends to be more conservative. And well, I guess I won't say former, he's military because he's actually back in and you never say former. But we're sitting there having a conversation, and I forget what the exact topic was. I actually took up, even though I consider myself conservative, the more liberal stance. So this white liberal at this bar just decides to walk up, and she kind of just like overheard parts because she didn't hear the conversation. She's heard like Obama. We talked about race a little bit, kind of stuff we talk about.
Uh-huh.
And I took the more liberal stance, but she walks up and she's like, "How dare you tell a black man how his this should be this, and this," and just starts going off on me. And then Jack, being Jack, is like, he starts screaming. He's like, "What the fuck, you dumb bitch!" And he's like, "Don't put words in my mouth. Don't assume that I'm a Democrat just because of my skin tone. You're very fucking racist." And she started screaming at this lady, and it was a clusterfuck.
Oh God, sounds
That's
fun.
Oh yeah, it was. And it was just like literally, and we weren't talking loud. We were talking. She just happened to be right next to us, but we were talking very calmly. Very Jack's very level-headed. I'm very level-headed. We don't get real heated. And this lady decided to insert because of her white guilt and then assume that I was taking the conservative stance and that he was taking the super liberal, which is super racist thing to do on her end,
Yeah,
to make that assumption.
there's a lot of that. There's a lot of the assumption that, and I have a friend. I have a friend Beth. I don't think she'll mind me saying her name, but she's a black woman who happens to be conservative and has to deal with so much like racism within her own community in a way that a lot of
Oh
people don't often think about. And she's the first to voice her opinion about stuff. So in a way, she has to know what the fallout of it is going to be. But I respect the fact that she puts herself out there and does it because it forces people to try to accept the fact that just because you look or act or talk or are a certain way, that doesn't necessarily mean that you. It's interesting, man. It's that team sports thing, you know.
Even like people see me, big dude covered in tattoos. They see me with a black wife and a mixed baby, and they assume I'm the most wildly liberal, which in a lot of ways I am actually super liberal. Um, but they assume I'm like progressive woke as they come. And it's just, and they assume my wife is too, which my wife says she's nothing, but she's definitely way more conservative than I am. You know,
Really?
like, oh yeah, I'm definitely the liberal, of us. And that's pretty typical in my experience when I meet foreigners from like third world countries, or not as, like European countries, but third world, like a lot of times when I meet like Mexicans from Mexico, they're super conservative too. It tends
Yeah.
to be like a developing country thing, tends to be a little more conservative. And so she doesn't say it, but like people, they do a couple of things. One, she's like, people will badmouth white people like crazy in front of her, and then she's like, "Well, my husband's white," but you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was gonna say it happens in front of me, but no, I really don't know any white people who really black. I met like one. I've had one white person badmouth black people in front of me. I think like not knowing, because I don't walk around being like, "Hey, I got a black wife. You want to see my black wife?" But
Yeah. 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 Oh,
yeah,
I think that again a regional thing. I think there's in my community growing up and stuff. It's like people will not even knowing that they're being racist because they don't have the frame of reference. It's just this understood thing of like if you're talking about a certain side of town or you're talking about a certain movie theater and people are just like, "Oh, that's the black place," and it's like, "Okay, that's all right."
they do that here in Denver really bad because we have Aurora, which is more black and a Hispanic neighborhood part of town.
Mhm.
And it's so funny because they're so racist, but they're so liberal. So they do it in the most funny way. Me and Shelby will laugh about it. Like they'll make like comments about that bad part of town, but you can tell there's so much racial connotation underneath
Yes.
it
Yes.
without actually saying it.
Yes, that way they don't that way they can still justify in their head that they're not racist
Yes.
pieces of shit.
You're like, "Dude, I don't care if you voted for Obama. You're racist as shit."
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I experienced a bit of that when I was in Rochester, New York, as well. Is
Really?
like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They vote liberal. They definitely their ideology syncs up with that. But then when it comes to just on a very like human level, they still have a lot of those same like biases, racially based biases, and maybe aren't even as aware of it because they do the things that it takes to let themselves off the hook. To where they can feel better about it, you know?
Yeah, they do the thing where they're like, "Oh, I said the right thing at this right moment."
Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know, man. Looking at that video, him smacking the bill of that dude's hat, it was not like a super aggressive, like, but then coming back and spitting on him afterwards, that's when
Yeah.
it was fucked up and wrong in the first place. But I could see, watching the video, if he hadn't spit on the guy, it's just like, yeah, that was fucking totally uncalled for. Maybe it was assault, maybe not. But then coming back, yelling at him, spitting in his fucking face, it's like at this point you just now turned it into like,
Well, and also too, you think he would have done it if he wasn't an elderly man? You think if my 6'5", 270 ass was sitting there, you think he would have walked up and touched my hat? Probably not.
I would love to see that video. That would be a very
Yeah,
different video.
because it would be a very different video. If you came up and spit on me while I'm wearing a red hat, it's gonna go very differently. You
So
know?
on New Year's Eve, my wife and I we were out at Baytown Wharf, which is Sandestin. It's a really cool, wealthy community. Like I don't know, a couple hundred miles from, maybe over 150 miles from here. Not super far from home, but we took a little fucking staycation out there. Got a hotel room for the night. This real nice resort, and we were watching a band perform right before the fireworks show at midnight, and they had two lead vocalists, a guy and a girl, and they're charismatic, they're doing their thing, they're fucking dancing, and one of the fans, and they're like a band who has played with big bands, but they're a cover band.
Okay.
They're not a band that you would be like a diehard fan of. They're just some fucking band playing other people's stuff, like Play That Funky Music, White Boy, or whatever. But there's this drunk lady in the audience, and she's reaching up towards the stage as if she's like trying to make contact with the performers, and the girl reaches her hand out too to make a connection with the woman, and the woman seized up with both hands and grabbed her by her wrist and her forearm and was just like saying something to her or singing at her or something. And the girl, a consummate professional, was able to just kind of like politely and still very courteously pry herself loose from this lady's fucking death grip, which almost pulled her off the stage. And I watched this whole thing going on,
You're like,
and I'm
"What
just
the
like,
hell?"
fucking drunk people are the worst.
Dude, drunk people really are the worst.
Oh my God, man. Talk about no fucking boundaries, right? And so then a couple days later, that story breaks. The Pope fucking slaps a lady. And I'm like, what? The Pope slapped a lady? And I watched the video, and dude, he barely slapped her. But if he would have just straight up fucking pimp slapped her, he would have been in every right to do so. Did you see that video?
No, I didn't.
Bro, fuck that lady. So the Pope's doing his Pope thing, and he's, walking from point A to point B, just being the fucking Pope. And of course, there are hordes of people, millions of people there, fucking, cheering, screaming, freaking out, trying to make contact. And this woman fucking grabs him. He's so old, dude. She
I'm
fucking
gonna watch that.
grabs him by the wrist, and you can see his expression like, oh no, bitch did not just put her hand on me, and she won't let go. And he just lightly but sternly smacks her on the hand. And
I don't blame him.
no,
No.
dude, no, dude, he was so completely in the right to do that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, she grabs him and yanks him, like, really hard, like a crazy person.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I'm just watching it right now. It's like, no, he was in every right to slap her hand.
He should have hit her harder.
Yeah, like, he handled it very well. Like,
Better than I would have. I'd have done some judo shit. I'd have broke a wrist.
I wish it would have been pretty funny if you would have seen him slap her, though.
Oh, fuck yeah. No, he's like, bitch, let
She does
go.
almost cause him to fall. Like, he does, like, almost he kinda, like, stumbles too because she pulls
Uh-huh.
him so hard. I don't blame him.
No, dude, she freaking yokes him like so entitled, you know? It's like, what are you doing?
Also, Pope out there doing his Pope things is my favorite quote from the show, possibly ever.
I mean, there's got to be a lot of that everywhere, you know?
Oh, I'm
People
sure.
like wanting to make contact with him. He's like the closest to God that you could possibly get if you're a Catholic. So, like, I understand that there's like Michael Jackson levels of fervor around him. It's funny you were talking about, you know, France or Paris
Yeah.
earlier, and us talking about Europe and just history and how there's just so much more legacy in places like fucking Rome in particular. It's like the cradle of civilization in a lot of ways, you know? Cradle of Western civilization, anyways. So yeah, I understand why people are you know, just historically I understand why people are interested in it. But yeah, they're this diehard fandom for anything, those people are insane.
Of anything.
Yeah.
I have another Florida man Trump story.
All right, let's get it.
Okay. So Florida man charged with impersonating a security member of the Trump's Marine One. So a former Marine allegedly impersonated a security team member for the Marine One, the helicopter that transports President Trump, and breached 2 checkpoints last week at Palm Beach International Airport. Brandon Magnin, 37, is charged with false impersonation of an officer of the employee of the United States, according to federal documents. Let me see how he did it. Trump was spending his winter vacation in Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach. Magnin approached a security checkpoint near where the helicopter was housed and showed credentials that indicated he was a law enforcement officer with the United States Marine Corps. He made it past another checkpoint before sheriff's deputy there noticed that Magnin was not wearing a Marine Corps uniform. When confronted, Magnin told officers he was a retired member of the HMX-1. However, the court documents show that Magnin was dishonorably discharged about 10 years ago after being convicted at a court martial for, quote, serious offenses. Magnin was arrested January 6th and was released on a $100,000 bond, according to court documents. If convicted of posing as a U.S. Secret Service officer, Magnin faces up to 3 years in prison. He is set to appear in Florida federal court on January 27th. This is insane.
Holy shit. Yeah,
Being
that's
at 3
serious.
checkpoints or 2 checkpoints, it's crazy. Like, that's some serious shit. Like, why? You know, it doesn't sound like he had, I mean, who knows what his intentions, but it doesn't sound like malice or anything. It sounds like what we were talking about with the Pope, like just wanting to be close to a powerful person.
And
I would guess he's more of a fan than a hater just
yeah.
from that.
Yeah, and like you said,
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like it was coming from a place of malice. Just like faking that you have a VIP pass to get into some fucking event. Only we're talking about like federal impersonating fucking. He's gonna get in big trouble for this, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah. It reminds me when people crashed that White House thing, remember? The couple did, and they took pictures with Obama. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
Years ago. There was like a husband and wife that like just walked in and like took pictures with him. I'm like, it's kind of terrifying if you're the president. Either one, like this guy getting up to even the second checkpoint, it's kind of terrifying. You know, what if he did have bad intentions? What if he did have something on him?
Yeah, that is crazy. I remember, like, were they influencers? Like, they were somehow able to infiltrate this very, very powerful, like a huge event. And they were like taking pictures with everybody, and everybody's like, "Who is this mysterious couple? Oh, we weren't supposed to be there in the first place."
Yeah, like that's crazy. Like, thank God those people weren't wanting to harm the president, you know, but like that could have been much worse.
Dude, that was, I think, 2009.
That was a long time ago.
Holy shit.
And it's crazy to think that the Obama years were like, well, not, I mean, we're more recent than that, but like that story doesn't seem like that long ago.
Not at all. Not at all. All right, one more Florida man. As I said at the beginning,
sent us one too that we got to go over.
Oh, okay. Well then, 2 more Florida man. And as I mentioned ahead up at the front, guys, meandering fucking podcast. I'm pretty sure the first 30 minutes of this podcast, neither of us actually said anything. Period. Like, I think it's just gonna be like Brexit. What's Brexit? I don't really know. Royal family.
The rest of the last 30 minutes too.
Fuck. All right. Well, Florida man attempts to steal golf balls, beats golfer, deputies say. According to an affidavit, Tyler Dearden, very close to Durden, 22,
Yeah.
was taking golf balls from a golfer's bucket at Stone Creek Club in Ocala. The man reportedly asked Dearden to get his own balls and not to take his. And then shit went bad. The golfer went inside to report him, and the golfer said when he went back out to the driving range, Dearden came up to him and stated he wanted to apologize. The golfer said Dearden began to punch him and knocked him to the ground. Deputies said that he beat the golfer to the point that he had broken ribs, several bruises, and cuts that required 9 stitches. Dearden told deputies he was defending himself because the golfer was threatening him by pointing a club at him. He was arrested for aggravated battery on a person 65 years of age or older. What a dickhead.
I don't understand most of these pointless stories like this. Like, there's no logic for it. But I guess I'm approaching it from a place of logic when these people aren't. But it's just like, what was the point of that? What did you get out of that?
When we were kids, I lived in a neighborhood called Tom King Estates. And Tom King Estates was a fairly nice neighborhood, but we were butted up against Hidden Creek, which was like the nice neighborhood in Navarre. And there was a golf course on it, and we lived next to Hole 9. And so as kids, we would go out there, and once the golfer would, their drive, once they would drive the ball, it would come and land kind of near our little access point to the golf course through the woods. And we would do shit like run out there, moon them, grab the golf balls, and run off like little fucking golf trolls or some shit. You know what I mean? Like that, we were an extra obstacle. If you ask me, we were providing an additional like service, another obstacle to overcome. I think
Is that what it was? It was like it was like worse than the sand pit.
yes. So goddamn golf goblins again. They ran out there and grabbed our ball.
Go show me their ass crack.
My buddy Bo Berry, he took it to a whole nother level though when he was like, dude, I've got an idea. He would bring an aluminum baseball bat out there. They would drive the golf ball towards us. He would tee the thing. He would toss it up in the air and just fucking smack it right back in their direction with a baseball bat, and never to hit anybody. We were just being fucking shitheads. So I'm not above the whole idea of fucking with people who are golfing. This is a whole different. This is a whole different thing.
Very different. I mean, you guys were still dickheads, but this is different.
Oh, total dickheads. Like the worst. You know what I mean? There's no defending that. But like if somebody would have ever been like, hey, you asshole, why are you doing that? We wouldn't confront them to like beat them up. Like, what the fuck did you just say? You got a problem with me out here causing problems? Because that's essentially what happened here. The dude was being a piece of shit, and the guy was like, hey, don't be a piece of shit. And he's like, oh, all right, I'll fucking show you.
I don't think I'd ever done anything like that. And like now I think back, like I was a pretty chill, good kid until I got older. I don't think I really did anything.
Nah, we were punks. We were straight up punks. That was it was fun for a while for us. And then once we got into like teenage years, I think I told you before, but like we would hit that like fucking Mario Kart. Like my buddy Ian had a CRV, the little sport utility Hondas, and we would drive those things over the fucking golf course, like over the dunes, into the freaking sand traps, just like cruising around, tearing that shit up. Probably costed
a ton of money.
A lot of money. And as I'm saying this out loud, I'm thinking about the statute of limitation, and I think I'm good. I think I'm good.
So Hacks Against Hacks is easily our best story of this whole podcast.
Oh, good. What we got?
I'm going to read the headline because I already kind of like browsed it real quick. I'm just going to start it kind of in the middle so you can get the surprise. So deputies say the man was sleeping in his bedroom when he woke and realized he wasn't alone. The man told deputies he assumed he was being robbed, so he told the intruder he didn't have any money. But money wasn't what he was there for. The intruder told the man he was there to suck on his toes.
Hey!
That's when the man punched the accused toe sucker and forced him outside, according to investigators. While the two brawled, the man who sucked the toes told the other man he had a gun and tried to fondle him, according to investigators. The man continued to hit the intruder for about 30 seconds before running inside and calling 911. Deputies said. At this point, the intruder broke out the front window of the home and stomped on the man's car windshield until it broke, deputies say.
Damn.
Investigators, the toe sucking man took off, so they tried to track him with the K9 unit, but were unable to find him. Man,
He's still
that
on the loose out there looking for your toes to suck.
is still, that's terrifying. Rob me, man, before you suck my toes. I'm okay. Take my money. Don't suck my toes.
Bro, look, gun to my head, I'm in a hostage situation, and you're like, I want to suck your toes, and then I would be like, and then you're good, you'll leave. You can suck my toes for a minute.
Just for a little bit, just the tip of the toe.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like, if that's what it takes to pacify, there are way worse things that you could do to me than suck my toes. It's
That
a,
is very true.
it's a weird thing to be referred to.
You forced to have someone suck on you. So let's,
Oh, what a weird fetish. And the dude was like serious about it. He was really angry that he was forced out of the man's house. Like that's drugs for you folks. Like, what else would fucking possess somebody to do that shit?
And here's my thing is like, dude, there's the internet. You can find someone. There's Craigslist. You can find someone who will let you suck their toes all day.
Guaranteed, man. Guaranteed. You could. I don't know. I don't know what the foot fetish thing is. I mean, I'm familiar with it. I don't personally understand it, but Honest Trailer's last trailer, I don't know if you saw this. It was every Quentin Tarantino movie ever.
No, I've heard though that he has a weird toe fetish thing.
I've watched every one of Quentin Tarantino's movies. He's one of my favorite filmmakers. I did not realize it. I've always heard people talk about it. And when they talk about it, I think about From Dusk Till Dawn when Salma Hayek is pouring the champagne down her leg.
Yeah, only scene.
That it's overt, but on this new Honest Trailers, let's see. On this new Honest Trailers, there's about a 1 minute montage of all of the feet scenes from Quentin Tarantino's movies, and dude, it is just clip after clip after clip of fucking close-ups on women's feet, dirty feet, fucking. I'm gonna try to find the timestamp for it because they go through this whole song. It's way too much. Like, they should have trimmed it down a little bit instead of like illustrating the point as much as they did. Let's see.
Down and everything. I don't be tickling.
This man.
All right, if you pull it up and you go to the 5 minute mark.
Okay, I'm not far in. I was looking at like 4 minutes or 3 minutes. So we'll do 5 minutes. Okay. Yeah, like they draw it out way too much before they get to the point. Okay, we'll get to 5 minutes. Okay, starting with the toe sucking, which that's the scene I remember.
It's crazy, dude. Like, I'm gonna mute it on mine so I can watch it without y'all hearing it.
I feel like it's just a shot. Like he likes the low shot.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's shots of people with shoes on in those. Same way.
There's a couple of them.
Huh?
There's some of them they have shoes on. Most of them they don't though. And the whole wiggle your toe thing. The whole conversation about foot massages in Pulp Fiction, fucking Kurt Russell caressing that girl's foot in fucking Death Proof. I'm not really sure on how that.
There's a ton of feet shots.
Ton of feet shots, dude. It just the song that they did is kind of funny. I'll let you guys get a taste of it.
I actually did notice the scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where she put her feet up on the
dashboard right there.
Dashboard.
Yeah, for sure.
Mainly because I'm like, I hate when people do that in the car.
It's dude, 100%. Get your goddamn feet off my dashboard.
Yeah, like I would lose my shit if they did that.
I hate when people put their feet. People are so goddamn entitled when they put their feet up in the movie theaters. I hate that shit.
Now, here's my thing: is if there's like you're in an empty theater, go for it. But there's people there. Put your feet down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even I agree. I can understand how it's more comfortable, but then it's like I go in there and I'm putting my head where somebody previously at another showing had their fucking feet up on there. Man, that leg that leg that flies out of the window looks so rubbery.
Yeah, it's
But it's a pretty good, honest trailer. It's not one of the funniest ones, but it brought in all of these tropes that I didn't even realize Quentin Tarantino had. So I got a kick out of it. Big fan.
That's why I love him.
You liked Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I did. I was like a 6 out of 10. The more and more I think about it, that number drops every day.
Man, I don't get it.
It's easily his worst. It's his first thing. It's definitely his worst film, and might even be his first bad film, in my opinion.
You think it's worse? You think it's not as good as Death Proof?
No, at least Death Proof had somewhat of a point, and I don't like Death Proof.
Oh man,
I actually don't like Kill Bill either very much. Those are like the three that I'm not that impressed with. It's just there's no point to it. It's just a bunch of scenes that have no point.
I'm very surprised that you don't like Kill Bill just because of its fucking anime influence.
I need to go back and watch it again though, because I haven't seen it since it came out. But I remember at the time being like, "Oh, this is like those Japanese movies that are like." I was a teen when I saw it. I'm like, "Oh, it's like all those Japanese movies that I've already seen, just
Yeah.
not as good."
Yeah.
But as an adult, I might like it. Once upon a time in Hollywood, I just like I look back and I'm like, "Oh, that scene was cool, but it never went anywhere. Oh, that scene was cool, but it never went anywhere." And it's all these weirdly disconnected scenes that don't really serve a point.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see
You know,
that.
I'm like the Bruce Lee scene, amazing scene. The Manson farm scene, amazing scene. The like they build toward things that even I won't spoil the movie, but like the Manson farm scene doesn't really, and then Manson farm scene, and then them driving the same cars. What's her name, and Margot Robbie and uh Leonardo DiCaprio. You're like, okay, like this is how it's gonna go, and you're like, no, this literally none of this plays really anyway. They're just all these disconnected weird scenes.
I didn't even think about the fact that didn't. It seemed like it was foreshadowing about the car thing for sure. Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, and then it just yeah. So the more and more I think about it, the more and more it drops. Like then it was one of those things I was like, I didn't really like it, but it's okay. And then like the next day, I was like, I hate this fucking movie. I was so angry at it.
I wonder, I have to say, like, if anybody else would have played the roles, would it have been what it is? And I don't think so. I think there's such specificity to. It's almost like those roles were written for them.
I agree. They're the reason you watch the movie, because especially Brad Pitt is phenomenal in it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like Brad Pitt makes that movie.
Well, all right. Let's continue this meandering, this meandering edition of the podcast with, let's start off with the Golden Globes thing. We're talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Obviously, it was one of the big nominations of the week. So, Ricky Gervais, he hosted again. I want to say this was his fourth or fifth time hosting.
I think it was fifth.
And pretty much the only reason that I tuned into the Golden Globes is because of their hosts and oftentimes their monologues. There have been a handful of hosts over the years that I really liked. I think the year that Amy Poehler and Tina Fey did it was really good, but I've always liked Ricky Gervais the most as a host.
Me too. So his literally every year I turn in, watch the monologue, turn it off.
Yeah, I watched it the next day.
Yeah. That's sometimes what I do. Usually it's a streaming, so like I'll watch it on Hulu as soon as it comes out, or now they just put it up on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's nothing really I care about. I don't care about awards, but hey, it's a little mini comedy show at the beginning.
Best Motion Picture Drama, winner 1917. Best Musical or Comedy, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Best Performance, Renee Zellweger for Judy. Best Performance by a Male Actor, Joaquin Phoenix in The Joker. That's pretty well earned, I'd say.
I would say definitely well earned.
So, I mean, we could go through all of them, but that's not the point. The point of the conversation, Best Actress in a Comedy, Awkwafina. I really wanted to see Ana de Armas win that fucking award, and not even because she was the best, but just because, like, I feel like she's going to be around for a while, man. And it was
she's going to be a big deal in the future, I think so. I think you're right. 100%.
Taron Egerton for Rocket Man in Best Performance, which he beat out Eddie Murphy, which I was a little bummed out about. I say all that without even seeing half of these fucking movies that they're talking about. So, like, it really doesn't matter what my take is, because I hadn't even seen all of the movies to be completely objective about it. But Brad Pitt did win for Best Performance by an Actor in a Supporting Role for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yep. All right. So, anyways, but we want to talk about the statements that Ricky Gervais made and how it kind of sent shockwaves through the online world.
Which this is what Ricky Gervais does. He's always pissing off Twitter, like that's what his later career is. I love Ricky Gervais. I think he's hilarious. But I actually have a transcript of it, so we can hit the high notes.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's cool.
Um, he said, "You'll be pleased to know this is the last time I'm hosting these awards, so I don't care anymore. I'm not joking. I never did. I'm joking. I never did." NBC clearly don't care either. Fifth time. I mean, Kevin Hart was fired from Oscars for offensive tweets. Hello, and he points to himself because that's all his Twitter is offensive tweets. And then he goes, "Lucky for me, Hollywood Foreign Press
Can barely
can barely
speak English.
speak English, and Twitter, and have no idea what Twitter is. So I got offered the gig by fax. Let's go out with a bang. Let's have a laugh at your expense. Remember, they're just jokes. We're all gonna die soon, and there's no sequel. So remember that."
All right, even before we even get past that. So, do you really believe that he doesn't care anymore?
He has fuck you money. Yeah, I think he'll just say what he wants. If they don't hire him, who cares?
Why do you think it is that Kevin Hart was fired from the Oscars versus him getting brought back to the Golden Globes? Is that just a difference between the Hollywood Foreign Press and the actual Academy?
I think so. For me, that's what it is. I feel like too. They probably looked at their um their views and realized like this is not the first time he's offended people at these awards. You know, he made the Caitlyn Jenner joke and all that. That offended people, and I've probably looked at it and they're like, you know what? When he hosts, people get offended, Twitter freaks out, and then we get more views.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's it. It's like the everyman tunes in to watch the Golden Globes because it's a more, I say the everyman. The everyman is not watching the Golden Globes. The
No.
more average viewer, I prefer the Golden Globes to the Oscars tenfold. Because at the Golden Globes, people drink, people get silly. It's not necessarily so self-important. So if I was going to pick between watching the Oscars and the Golden Globes, I would prefer to watch the Golden Globes. Also because the Hollywood Foreign Press, they're coming at it from a kind of outsider perspective. So they like the spectacle, they like the pageantry. They're big fans of the actual people in the community, as opposed to like where the Oscars is by the Academy, it's by thousands of people in the industry itself. In a way, that feels more self-congratulatory to me than it does 70 journalists that work for publications outside of the U.S. To me, that seems more representative of what the audience is like than the Oscars does.
I agree, and I just feel like he does something smart. Is like you said, it is more. He more like you said, it's an everyman thing, and he really takes the everyman stance.
Yeah, his perspective is that of the viewer, not of an insider, which we'll get to that in a little bit. All right, so from there he says, but look at you, but you all look lovely all dolled up. You came here in your limos. I came here in a limo tonight, and the license plate was made by Felicity Huffman. No shush, it's her daughter I feel sorry for, okay? That must have been the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to her. And her dad was in Wild Hogs.
It's pretty funny.
Lots of big celebrities here tonight. Legends, icons. The table alone, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Baby Yoda. Oh, that's Joe Pesci. Sorry, I love you, man. Don't have me whacked, but tonight isn't just about the people in front of the camera. In this room are some of the most important TV and film executives in the world. People from every background. They all have one thing in common. They're all terrified of Ronan Farrow. He's coming for you. Talking of all you perverts, it was a big year for pedophile movies. Surviving R. Kelly, Leaving Neverland, Two Popes, Shut Up, Shut Up, Shut Up, I Don't Care, I Don't Care.
I feel like for clarification for people who don't know who Ronan Farrow is, he's a guy who he's Mia Farrow's son. Is that
Yes.
what it is?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and he really uncovered, not uncovered, but he wrote a lot of articles that really pushed the Harvey Weinstein Me Too scandal.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's why everybody was afraid of him. I get it now.
Yeah, so that's why.
Okay.
Many said
Go ahead.
many talented people of color were snubbed in major categories. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that. Hollywood Foreign Press are all very racist. Fifth time. So we're going to do we were going to do an in memoriam this year, but I saw the list of people who died. It wasn't diverse enough. No, it was mostly white people, and I thought, nah, not on my watch. Maybe next year. Let's see what happens.
See, I love that, and it's
That's
working
funny.
on multiple different levels here already. I think that a lot of people are not appreciating the nuance in this humor here. what defines a snub, right? Like there's a lot of conversation about inclusion, there's a lot of conversation about diversity. And I think you and I are probably on the same page about this because we're like rational human beings. Is like, yes, there does need to be representation as long as it's authentic. Like
Yep.
the last thing that I want is, Woody Allen turning in the latest draft of a screenplay, or I'm using Woody Allen for an example because he's a white New York Jew whose life experience is probably very insulated, and I would hate to say, him turn in a draft of a script and they'd be like, this is great, however, we think your lead character needs to be black. And then it's like, okay, so now we've got Eddie Murphy playing a version of Woody Allen, and it's like he's only there to fill some sort of quota. It doesn't fit with the character. So this idea about like representation, I think it's funny that he's like, I was gonna do an in memoriam, but they were all white people, so I decided fuck it. Because the thing is, like, you can't help who dies. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
And the fact that it came out all that way, it's funny because it's like a lot of the shit is institutional, but like there are no literal doors there that are keeping out women directors. There are literally no doors there that are keeping out minority actors and actresses. It's less of a, I mean, God, this even goes into the wage gap and stuff like that. It's less of a, there's not an opportunity for you, and more of like, maybe those people aren't necessarily taking advantage of the opportunities because maybe they don't give a shit about ending up in movies.
It's kind of like there's more, like black athletes, because first of all, they're just better and let's be real. But there's no like, that doesn't mean that there's people that preventing white basketball players from joining it.
Right.
It's a cultural thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very funny to me. And I think that's a big thing about Academy Awards the past couple years. Like I've seen people like, oh, this whole big list of men and there's no women on the list. Well, should we take out one of the people who deserve the nomination to throw a token female in there?
It was like when Guillermo del Toro won best film, and people were like, "Oh, another white man." I'm like, "He's from Mexico, you guys." Chill."
Yeah, yeah. It was almost as if he had to go up there and apologize for being a man. Like, I'm sorry,
I'm
I was
like,
born
"You guys
this
want
way."
diversity? Well, this year we care about gender, not about."
Yes.
It was just like, okay, so you got diversity, but it wasn't the hot one for this year.
And that's the other problem is there's so many nominations. So like, do we have to split it according to race? Do we have to split it according to gender? Do we have to make sure to include non-binary people? Do we have to make sure that we represent people with physical disabilities, mental disabilities? Like where do we stop vivisecting this thing to where now everybody's getting an equal piece of the pie, even though representation is really like more of a game of statistics. Like you and I have talked about that before. Like if 30% of a population is this way, then is equal representation wouldn't be that they get half of the screen time. It would be that they're represented 30% of the time. But even that is like, that's not how the creative mind works. So not to get too hung up on that point, but I thought that was one of the moments where my ears really perked up and I was like, I like what he's doing here.
Well, here, I'll kind of maybe like skip through some of it so we can hit the high points, of it.
Mm-hmm.
The parts that were like, okay. So he says, no one cares about movies anymore. No one goes to the cinema. We're all not watching Netflix. He should come out and say, you win. Hey, Netflix, you win. Everything. Good night. But no, we drag it on for 3 hours. You could binge watch the entire first season of Afterlife instead of watching the show, which is his show. That's a show about a man who wants to kill himself because his wife dies of cancer, and it's still more fun than this. Spoiler alert, season 2 is on the way. And so in the end, he obviously didn't kill himself, just like Jeffrey Epstein. And then they do go, oh, everyone he says, they go, shut up. I know he's your friend, but I don't care. Which is hilarious to me.
So, let's see. Let me look at that part real quick. The Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself thing, maybe not the freshest joke, but because you're presenting it to the specific group of people you are, it makes it a little more funny.
Well, when he said the Jeffrey Epstein thing didn't kill himself, I was like, that's not funny. But then when he said, shut up, I know he's your friend, but I don't care, is when I thought it was really funny.
So of all of those people, high profile people that we know that were on the Lolita Express, I can't point to any actors or actresses that were on it, but because I was more focused on the political side of it, do you know of any of the people from Hollywood that were like friends
I know
with him?
Chris Tucker was on it,
Oh,
but that
Hollywood
just
darling
stuck out
Chris
to me.
Tucker. Yeah, let's see. Celebrities.
Lolita Express celebrities. I guarantee you there were a ton.
Oh yeah,
You know,
there
Which-
had to have been.
that's why that joke is funny, because it's like he already called them perverts, and then that line like kind of played harken back to that.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Oh yeah. All right. So if you're gonna look at that for a second, I'm gonna
yeah,
say,
you continue reading. and I'll-
seriously, most films are awful, lazy. Remakes, sequels. I've heard a rumor there might be a sequel to Sophie's Choice. I mean, that would just be Meryl going, well, it's gotta be this one then. All the best actors have jumped onto Netflix, HBO, and the actors who just do Hollywood movies now do fantasy adventure nonsense. They wear masks and capes and really tight costumes. Their job isn't acting anymore. It's going to the gym twice a day and taking steroids. Really. Have we got an award for the most ripped junkie? No point. We know who'd win that.
That's funny.
It's fucking amazing. It is so good. And to me, it obviously it transitions really nicely into his next part, which is Martin Scorsese made the news for his controversial comments about the Marvel franchise. He said they're not real cinema and they remind him about theme parks. I agree, although I don't know what he's hanging around theme parks. He's not big enough to go on the rides. He's tiny. The Irishman was amazing. It was amazing. It was great, long but amazing. It wasn't the only epic movie. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, nearly 3 hours long. Leonardo DiCaprio attended the premiere, and by the end of it, his date was too old for him. Even
That's
Prince
hilarious.
Andrew was like, come on, Leo, mate, you're nearly 50-something. And Prince Andrew was the guy who definitely did that interview about Jeffrey Epstein that we kind of alluded to earlier on in the podcast. So I think it's so on point. Up to this point, everything that he said it's just jokes, but jokes are a funny, elusive thing because jokes are told by truth. So I think that's a kind of weird thing is like, are jokes just jokes or are jokes truth?
Like jokes definitely contain a good joke contains at least a nugget of truth. That's why it's funny. You know, that's like to me there is very much. I mean, since we all know this, comedians have been like pioneers of free speech forever.
Uh-huh.
And when it was really the religious right trying to stomp them out, they were the ones who kind of like spoke it. And there's a little bit of truth to all this stuff, and that's why it's kind of funny. If he was married to a woman who was his same age, well, this joke wouldn't be funny. You know what I mean? There has to be some nugget of truth in every joke
It's
to
a good
make it
point.
funny.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm going through freaking celebrities and shit, and I don't see a lot of like real.
I saw Alec Baldwin, Chris Tucker, Courtney Love,
Okay.
and then a lot of the list all that I found were like everyone from Alec Baldwin to Courtney Love. Like, and you're like, well, I want to know who.
Yes, yeah, me as well. And it's like, there are definitely were celebrity connections. I don't necessarily know.
Kevin Spacey.
Oh, surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, what a shocker.
So when he says we all know who'd win that, who would be the actor, the most ripped junkie?
I have no idea. Who would you think?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he was talking about Robert Downey Jr. That was like be my first, but he's not like the most ripped.
Maybe. I have no idea who he's talking about. It's definitely someone who's in superhero movies.
Yeah, Chris Evans.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it is funny because. And they do act. It's not fair to say that they're not acting. I think Robert Downey Jr. did some good performances in
I
there.
agree.
But as a joke, I felt like that shit landed. All right, so now we're at the world got to see James Corden as a fat pussy. He was also in the movie Cats. No one saw that movie. And the reviews, shocking. I saw one that said it's the worst thing to happen to cats since dogs. But
That's funny.
it's great. But Dame Judi Dench defended the film, saying it was the film she was born to play because she loves nothing better than plunking herself down on the carpet, lifting her leg, and licking her arse. Hairball, she's old school.
That one, yeah.
All right.
To me, the next paragraph is where it really pick. And did you see some of the faces in specifically Tom Hanks' face during
Oh,
most of
yeah.
this?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, but anyway, he said, it's the last time. Who cares? Apple roared into the TV game with the morning show, and everyone cheered. A superb drama about the importance of dignity and doing the right thing, made by a company that runs sweatshops in China. Well, you say you're woke, but the companies you work for in China, unbelievable. Apple, Amazon, Disney. If ISIS started a streaming service, you'd call your agent, wouldn't you?
Yeah, yeah,
That's-
it's pretty on point there. I find it fascinating, and Disney does a bunch of this. A lot of the quote unquote virtue signaling, but mostly like you look at Tim Burton's Dumbo movie, and it was almost a movie about like anti-capitalism and consumerism, and almost like a satire of Disney in itself. But Disney are the ones who stand to profit from it. So there's like this, they know that
That's
it
Hollywood
sells.
in a nutshell.
Yes. They know that the ideas, this idealistic way of thinking, it sells and it resonates with people. So they project virtues, they project morals and integrity and value, when at the core they really don't have those things. They
No.
just know that they're marketable and profitable.
It reminds me of like when Nike did the whole Colin Kaepernick campaign. People are like, oh, my Nike's so woke. I'm like, no, they're playing to their base
Yes.
to make money.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, corporations don't have values. They're made up of shareholders who do have values, but ultimately they're just trying to make as much money as possible. So his very last line, so if you win, come up, accept your little award, thank your God, thank your agent and your God, and fuck off, okay? It's already 3 hours long. Right, let's do the first award. So he, right there at the end of his opening monologue, he did something that I think he put a stamp of nihilism on the proceedings that, in a way, everybody had an uphill battle to that anybody's words were going to mean anything. So I've got complicated feelings about it, because I do very much like Ricky Gervais. I thought his opening monologue was pretty funny. I felt like it was more of a claptrap, like more moralizing than it was actually like laugh out loud funny.
I agree.
And I also find it fascinating that he sees himself as not a part of that system.
See, to me, I didn't read as he doesn't see himself as a part of that system. He sees himself as a part of that system, but knows he's a part of that system. Instead of like where he says, so if you win a war tonight, you don't use your platform to make a political speech. You're in no position to lecture the public on anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg, which is funny. And when he says that, I think like he knows that he is part of this thing, but he's not out there virtue signaling. I think he was going more to the where like, stop being so woke. You're not that woke. To me, that's what I took from it. Like, you're part of this big thing. You work for big companies. Like, he did a show for Netflix, but he knows that. He's not out there saying all these crazy things. The only thing he ever talks about is like animal rights, which he hasn't done anything, as far as I can tell, that's going against that.
So there's this thing like you wake up the next day and there's a narrative that's kind of been created. Like, I didn't question whether or not I enjoyed Ricky Gervais's opening monologue. I got a big kick out of it. And then I woke up the next day, maybe 2 days later, and started to see that like my tribe, liberal people did not like it, and that it was being shared predominantly with conservatives, and that there were certain elements of it that were very cherry picked from it that helped boost one side of their moralizing, and then on the other side of it diminished their moralizing. And I don't feel like I don't feel like it was necessarily Ricky Gervais coming at it from a conservative angle. I think he was just trying to, again, speak truth to power and kind of take these people down a peg
Well,
in the eyes of the public.
well, and I feel like he's just sick of it. And here's the thing is, this is what cracks me up. First of all, and he said this, calling someone conservative is not a way to win an argument. You don't just go, oh, he's conservative. First of all, Ricky Gervais isn't conservative. He's very liberal.
Mm-hmm.
Two, since when is talking bad about rich people, talking bad about giant companies considered a conservative stance?
Yeah, I think it's words like woke. I think when people see you challenge the word woke, then all of a sudden there is it is a conservative talking point. The word woke has that connotation to it. Being anti woke is a very conservative idea. Am I right? Maybe is that
No,
inaccurate?
I feel like I know I'm running into more liberals anymore who are like, I'm so sick of wokeness. I'm so sick of wokeness.
I'm sick of fucking wokeness.
Yeah, like I meet more and more liberals anymore who feel that way. I feel like it's a very libertarian thing, which I feel like most liberals who are sick of they're true liberals, which is now more libertarian. I feel like Democrats really aren't true liberals anymore, you know. So I do meet a lot of liberals who are like, I'm sick of wokeness, I'm sick of this progressive stuff. Um, a lot of times, but that's kind of what's amazing to me is I remember when Democrats were truly the party of like weren't the party of the rich. Now they are. I mean, let's call facts. Every study shows that more rich people vote Democrat than they do conservative anymore. Like that is the party of the uber wealthy. It is the left right now. So him coming out and you're allowed to. The thing that cracks me up is you're allowed, and you see this flip flopping on both sides. Conservatives are always like, big business, yay, shut down Twitter because they're not conservative enough. And then liberals are like, we hate big business. We love Twitter and Facebook because they're liberal and they're big business. You know, and you're like, and I feel like that's more what he was calling out. More on the left side. I mean, he didn't address the conservative side, but why would you? There's no conservatives in the audience.
When he says, so if you win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech. In a way, did he use his platform to make and maybe not political as in just straight up politics, but social political or identity politics? Did he
totally
use his
like
platform?
A commentary on like, yeah, like on not necessarily politics, but yeah, he did do like the identity politics commentary on wokeness, you know, which is inherently political. I mean, everything's kind of political to an extent.
So I think that's kind of my thing is he got the first word in and it that sets the tone, and then everybody else afterwards. And you know, when I look at Hollywood, I understand we as a society collectively, not necessarily as individuals, but collectively, we revere these people. We kind of put them up on a pedestal. We view them as like the ideal people. Like they live the life that most of us have never dreamed of. And when he says, you know, most of you don't have the education of Greta Thunberg. Ricky Gervais did not get famous until he was like 40. He actually is. He went to university. He's a very educated person, so he is able to kind of take that stance. And he's not coming at it completely as a hypocrite, but I do feel like there's a little bit of that, like the whole idea of the claptrap of like, I want you to come up here and say what I think you should say, and don't say what I don't think you should say, and get the fuck out of here, and let's do this award show. And then it's everybody else. And okay, so if you are a celebrity, and you are wealthy, and you are powerful, and you have an opportunity to get up there and use your platform to say something that you feel like matters to you, is that the right thing to do, or do you think that's the wrong thing to do?
No, shut the fuck up and grab your award. I'm so sick of hearing celebrities, even ones that I agree with. You know, I'm just like, I'm so sick of hearing all of it. Just like, I don't give a shit what you think about politics. And here's my thing is, and I agree with what he says. We do this thing where we go, oh, this person is good at baseball, so he must be good at politics. This person can sing, so they're smart. It's not fucking. They're people with different jobs. You know, they don't know any. I'm telling you right now, an actor knows nothing more about politics than your local plumber does.
They don't know more, but they have more influence. And maybe that's the danger of it, because you're right. But okay, so then I'm sitting here in a position of privilege. I'm a award-winning actor. This is a hypothetical situation where I am a celebrity elite. I've won multiple Academy Awards before, and I feel empty inside because I don't feel like what I do necessarily adds real value to the world. I feel like maybe I'm a little bit shallow, and maybe I could use my influence, and maybe I could use my celebrity to bring attention to a greater cause, like Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation, where he's like literally getting millions and millions of dollars put into environmentalism. I think that that's a fantastic thing. Is Leo the person that's going to get up there on stage and do the moralizing thing? I don't know. I just feel like maybe it helps them out to feel like they are more than just because acting in itself is kind of a lie. So then maybe if they have an opportunity, a moment to speak what they believe is truth, then they take the opportunity. And I don't know if that's wrong. I do agree with the shut the fuck up, but if I were in their position, I could see myself wanting to use the platform to say something that I believed in.
Here's my thing is, most of the stuff that they do, there are people like Leo who have all these foundations and do these things. There's also people like Akon who shut the fuck up and put his money where his mouth is and actually left being an entertainer to be a humanitarian. You know, that's why you don't hear from Akon anymore. He's actually doing real life change, you know? But then there's a lot of people who go up on stage and don't do shit and then say a little speech so that they can go ahead and feel good about themselves at night. You're not helping anything. You're just saying shit. And you're turning like I I literally don't give a fuck what Tom Hanks, what anyone, even with Ricky Gervais, I'm gonna make up my own mind, you know? And that's cool because it's funny what he did, you
Yeah.
know. But would I want even when Ricky Gervais goes on an animal rights rants things, which he does this too on his own personal Twitter, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, perfect example. If he does on his Twitter, that's fine. This is not the venue for it. Let's say we take out his whole Golden Globes monologue and it's 5 minutes of him talking about animal rights very seriously. I would still be like, dude, this just isn't the spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't turn in to hear uneducated people talk about shit they don't know.
Oh my God. And we apologize to those of you who are still listening to this podcast at the 2 hour mark.
Is it 2 hours already?
We're gonna skip the CES thing because
Okay.
I mean, this is interesting shit though. I find myself kind of as usual playing devil's advocate to myself, and I look at somebody like Jane Fonda, who in a way was born into privilege, but chose a struggle and chose to put herself in the way of adversity to actually make social changes that she found important. And she's somebody that over the years has been arrested multiple times, whether it be for standing up for equality when it came to civil rights movement. She is somebody who really has in and not just put her money where her mouth is, but put her body in these marches, in these protests. She's organized legions of people. She's used her celebrity as leverage to make positive social impacts. And maybe I happen to think she was right to do that because I agree with her politics on those particular issues. Whereas if somebody disagreed with her politics on those particular issues, maybe they would say that it was all unasked for, unwarranted, and all of those kind of things. So I do feel like a lot of it just is, does this person agree with what I agree with, or do they not? And if they don't, they should shut the fuck up.
I do agree with that sentiment, and I just tend to take the thing of I think all of them should shut the fuck up. You know, I don't care if you're right wing or not. I just don't give a shit. Like, I'm turning into an award show to watch about awards. You know,
Yeah, you're right.
like the game awards, video game awards. You don't see this shit in the video game awards. They're very liberal. They're tech people. You know, and it's literally a celebration of games. Can we just have a celebration of film? Like for one night, can we just have a celebration of film? Like we don't have that anymore. It's like I honestly, this is the reason I don't watch award shows. To be 100% honest, is this grandstanding shit. This is the 100% the reason why I don't watch Oscars or Golden Globes anymore, because I don't give a shit what these people have to say about politics, and that's what it turns into. It's all Trump or this or whatever. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if you're pro Trump. If you go up there wearing a MAGA hat, I don't give a shit. Just go up there, accept your pretty little award, so talk about your movie, talk about this, thank your agent, like you said, and go home. I'm at that point with this shit where I'm like, I'm so sick of us thinking these people are larger than life and that they inherently are better than us. We've created this new um status of like the bourgeoisie, like we created this new class that for us uncelebrity folks think, oh man, we're just dumb folks down here in the dumps. But those people, they're closer to God.
Yeah.
They're all popes walking around closer to God than we are. And it's stupid. They're people with a different job. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's why there is more weight put on what they did. But by using your opening monologue to, I feel like it set the tone that it became that kind of discussion, which is great for business. Like when it ultimately comes down to it, Ricky Gervais got a fucking paycheck to do that.
Yeah.
And he also did his job in that his statements caused more viewers to tune in and to discuss this, including people that will never really reach across the aisle. Those people in more rural areas that hate the Golden Globes and the movie industry and entertainment and all that in the first place. Now all of a sudden they have a reason to watch this, and that was very intelligent. I don't know how.
Do you think they watched it, or you think they did exactly what I did? Watch his monologue and
No,
turned it off.
100%. But even that monologue is posted to NBC's fucking YouTube channel. But no, I like you said, I don't think that anybody really watched more than, like I watched a couple of the acceptance speeches. I thought Joaquin Phoenix's in particular was incredibly humble and sincere, and you don't get that from Joaquin Phoenix a lot. But
No.
I feel like you look at somebody like Leonardo DiCaprio, Casey Affleck, fucking Joaquin Phoenix, and they didn't get ousted from Hollywood, but they had to like do some serious PR work. Like Leonardo DiCaprio, luckily he does have all of these nonprofits, because during the Me Too movement, a lot of these guys could have gotten completely ousted from Hollywood and quote unquote canceled. Because I think for a long time, culturally things were a lot different. It's that idea of holding people to a different standard now than they were back then. I'm pretty sure if you go back to the Pussy Crew days or whatever, with Gyllenhaal and Leo and all of them, then like you could point to it and be like, that's the kind of sexist behavior that kind of fed into toxic masculinity in the first place. So anyways, Joaquin Phoenix gets up there on stage and basically says, I want to say thank you to the people around me for basically giving me a chance and helping me grow as a person, because I've made shit tons of mistakes, and for some reason you guys haven't completely kicked me out of the club yet. And I thought that was cool. And not just that, but him and Martin Sheen were among activists arrested on Friday as Jane Fonda led her final Climate DC protest. Weekly events that have drawn Hollywood figures and other activists in an effort to build support for much greater action on climate change. So in a way, that is maybe the kind of thing of, instead of using your acceptance speech for an award to incite change, maybe this is the way to do it, right?
I agree 100%. Like, go do that. I have no problem with that. I mean, granted, I don't care about like what they have to say still, but go do that. That's fine. Go do that. I have no idea. You want to go get arrested? That's cool. I'm a firm believer of you're allowed to protest. Left, right, center. You're allowed to. You're allowed to do it, and that I have no problem with. Like, I really don't. It's just more. A lot of times it's, for me, the grandstanding is what really bothers me. Like they said, it's all these people. The perfect thing was the Apple TV. Like, it's a thing about morals in this by a company who owns sweatshops.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's that, and it's all this Kind of what we were talking about earlier, where like people will say the right things but be horribly racist. To me, that's what I feel like a big chunk of everyman Joe sees Hollywood as, a bunch of fucking lying hypocrites, who are like, and not saying that's all of them, because of course there's not. There's really people who believe what they do, but there's a lot of people. It's like, if you truly believed what you did, if you truly believed your progressive ideals, you wouldn't have a platform in it, because you wouldn't be in Hollywood, because this quote unquote super liberal community is one of the most like sexist, capitalist. It's everything that they say they're against, and I feel like that's what Ricky Gervais is pointing out. It's like, you guys are literally everything you guys say you are against.
God,
So
dude.
fuck off.
And maybe I'm even more nihilistic to say like Hollywood is just a microcosm of society as a whole. And yeah, of course, they are more privileged, they are more powerful, they do have more influence. But yeah, some of them are liars and hypocrites, and so are we. Like we are. Like I use an iPhone, and I acknowledge that it was made in sweatshops probably, but I don't know what the solution to these kind of problems are. Maybe Windows phones are better, but I think if we were to dive deeper into it, like corporate culture is greedy, and they will always pay the people the least to get the labor that they need to make the most profit off of shit. So like, am I less of a hypocrite because I have less influence?
Well, here's the thing is, and maybe this is because I am pro big business, I don't have a problem with this. A lot of this stuff, I'm like, I'm not that big of a hypocrite about, because I'm pro big business. I'm pro capitalism. Like, a lot of this shit doesn't bother me. I'm like, yeah, they're trying to make money. And guess what? I would do it too. I feel like where the disconnect is people saying all this shit and being the most privileged in our society. Talking about privilege is so fucking annoying.
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
It's like, do you want an active drunk telling you to stop drinking? It's
Right.
that thing. Like, you're worse than me. I have a drink every once a week. You're a full-on blown alcoholic, or you're a junkie. Let's say even worse. You're addicted to meth, but you're going to lecture me on having a drink every once a week. That's what Hollywood is for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I don't know that nihilism is a solution. I think nihilism is more just almost like a accepting of defeat. Not defeat, because that's not even true. I am a nihilist, and I take no pleasure in that. Like, I wish I could be more idealistic. I wish I could be more religious. I wish I did have some of those comforts afforded to me that people that are a little more idealistic or have faith or have some greater calling or sense of purpose, they probably in a lot of ways can live more fulfilled lives, because they don't look at everything as being completely fucked already,
Yeah.
And I don't know, if you just acknowledge that everything is fucked already, then nothing matters.
So me, it's like, I think the difference is, I feel like a lot of people don't think everything's all fucked. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of this, I'm like, no, that isn't all fucked. Like capitalism, people go, capitalism is all fucked. I'm like, no, it isn't. It's raised more people out of poverty than any other system of government ever has. This, throughout humanity, including this includes to a lot of developing nations, are better off with capitalism. And you can, like, people, yeah, it is that nihilistic thing of like, well, it's all fucked. It isn't all fucked. It really isn't. There are good things. Not saying that there's no negatives. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, not saying there's not negative capitalism, but it's a net positive. I mean, you look at everywhere that institutionalized capitalism. You even look at America's wealth has pulled out other countries out of poverty more than that, by just, it's not as much a zero sum game as everyone likes to make it out to be. And I feel like the whole everything's fucked from Hollywood while I'm fucking everything up is just super irritating for most people.
Amazon. I think that Jeff Bezos has implemented some really reprehensible work practices among his employees. I would hate to be in the situation that a lot of those people are in. However, I use Amazon. I utilize it. And I think that that's kind of the hypocrisy of somebody like myself is understand. Like, I do believe that capitalism is both a positive and a negative. I feel like in order to lift the ships, then like you've got to like to raise the tides, you've got to like throw stones into the bottom of the sea so that the water levels rise. But there has to be like there's things that get pushed to the bottom to elevate other things. And I feel like the thing about capitalism is that so few companies own so much that this idea of like a free market is more of an idealistic what we would like to for it to be than what it really is, which is that 2% that everybody was obsessed with back in 2008 has now become the 1% because the wealthiest are going to continue to get more wealthy. They buy out competition. There are opportunities, but you are fighting against all odds. I want to say like 95% of businesses fail because there are powers that be that will play their advantages against the small guy.
To an extent, but there's also 95% of businesses fail because 95% of people don't know how to operate a business.
Sure.
You know,
What,
and I feel
well, 95% of
You look
businesses
at-
fail. What percentage of it is because people don't know how to run businesses versus what percentage of it is because the Starbucks will fucking buy them out or open next door?
so if Starbucks buys them out, that's a win. You know, like people build apps all the time with the intention of getting bought out for billions of dollars,
Yeah,
millions of dollars.
For sure.
But if you look at like, yeah, you're like, oh, it's so hard to make it, especially during the tech age. There are new companies popping up left and right, making a ton of money, more now than ever. You know what I mean? Like Uber didn't exist not too long ago. DoorDash, all of these new tech companies, they're popping up overnight. And yeah, some of them are going to fail. Some of them are going to grow like crazy. But Amazon was one of these new tech companies at one point in time, you know? Like they just were, and they played their cards right. They worked real hard. They played some smart business, and they moved up. There's substantial wealth mobility within this country specifically. A lot of people like to downplay it, but most people here, rich people fall out of being rich. There are the uber elites, obviously, but most people fall out of being rich, lower middle class, move up constantly. Like we're not this stagnant, beat down people. There is money out there to be made. You may not be one of the ones who make it, but it is out there. If you play your cards right, there is that opportunity to move up within it. I'm a firm believer of that. And I feel like that mentality has actually helped me a lot because I'm like, okay, damn, I'm not making the money I made. I need to reassess and go back to the drawing board and figure out why. And I feel like that's just a healthy way to approach it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky because when I look at celebrities, whether they be athletes or whether they be actors, musicians, they're kind of a shining example of how you can of upward mobility when it comes to wealth. I remember Chris Rock talking about the difference between new money and old money, and that's something that has profoundly resonated with me. Is that oftentimes, and this is just through you know statistics, information that I didn't gather firsthand, but oftentimes we are born and die into the same class structure. Like if your parents are poor, chances are pretty good that you're going to be poor. However, there are exceptions to that. A lot of times the exceptions are, okay, I've got poor parents, but I was a great football player, so now I'm an athlete. Or my parents were poor, but I, at a young age, got really into hip-hop music and became a rapper. Or I moved from Idaho and went to LA and slept on couches for a couple weeks, and now I'm a celebrity. That's new money. And that is the kind of money, like those people to me, you look at them and they are the face of privilege, but they are not they don't represent real power. To me, the people who are the real power players, they're not as in your face. We don't see them as much. They have the power of anonymity. And those are the people that I don't know who to point at and be like, you fucking suck. But they're there, and they're the ones who have the real influence, I believe.
Well, and I agree with that, but I also disagree that if you're born poor, yes, if you're born poor, the odds of you staying poor are somewhat high. They're actually not as high as people make them out to be. If you can do three things, you will not die in poverty.
To
you can do
me,
those three
that
things.
kind of antidotal thing though comes to like, okay, if you have cats, you're more likely to not go to church. Is like, does the church really have anything to do with the cat?
I think but no, these are direct things. Like, yes, finishing high school,
No
you know,
shit.
has
No
a
shit.
direct thing, direct correlation. If you don't have kids when you're too young and you can't afford them, that has a direct correlation to what you do.
But
You
all
know,
three of those things tend to happen more in low income situations. Like the rich people typically are going to finish high school. It's typically going to be the poor people that end up not able to for whatever the reasons are. But that's the kind of shit that it gets so murky to me. Is like, I don't know, man. It's tough. It's tough because yes, Hollywood is an easy scapegoat. They're the ones that we can point to and talk about wealth and power and privilege. But when they're depending on what side of the aisle you're on, I think is depending on the sides of Ricky Gervais's monologue that people gravitated to the most. Do you capitalize the letter G in God? Well, it depends on if you're a believer or not. And so I don't know, man. At the end of the day, like I don't have a real clear stance on it. I just feel like there are flaws with like I understand your take on being pro business. And I do see how focusing on the people at the top can elevate you out of a bad financial situation.
Mhm.
But I also feel like there are the people at the bottom who they have to, even if they're going to get exploited to the fullest extent, they still have to do what they have to do to provide for their fucking families. So they will go work in these sweatshops for 35 cents a day. And I feel like that's the root of the problem is so much fucking bigger than Hollywood.
Oh, and I agree with that. I feel like the root of the problem is so much bigger than Hollywood, but I feel like that's not what people are taking issue with Hollywood. Is I feel like people take issue with the being so part of a system and contributing to that system while speaking truth to power when you are the power, speaking truth to yourself. I mean, they're not the uber elite, but to me, Jeff Bezos comes out and talks about capitalism. Guess what? I'm not going to really listen to him. And to
It's a
me,
good
it's
point.
the same thing.
It's a good point.
You know,
Yeah.
like, okay, go fly to a climate change summit in your private jet and tell me how bad my car is. Cool, man. Yeah, see it. And I feel like more and more, more moderates and all that. I think they're getting even sicker of it. I don't think it's just the right wing who's getting sick of Hollywood. Really don't.
No. Well, we'll see how this all plays out. I'm really curious about how the Oscars goes after this. Like you said about the cameras panning out into the audiences and seeing the way that these people
Hanks.
reacted to it. But fuck, dude, I don't know how I would react to it. Like if I knew the cameras were on me, I don't know what expression
laugh.
I would make. I don't know if he was the memification or the gifting of Tom Hanks's face. I don't know if it was necessarily and that one face where he's kind of doing like you can't see me right now, but the kind of like pursed lips thing,
Yeah.
eyes open, eyebrows up, is maybe like, fuck yeah, he's right. Fuck, we do that.
Oh, true. Could be that.
I don't
It looked
know.
more like the offended face to me, but who knows? It's hard to say what someone's face is.
And yeah, it is. It's also interpretive.
Mm-hmm.
And I would actually love to hear what your guys' thoughts are on this whole topic down in the comments section. We're going to hold off on the other. I don't know if another topic will come up between now and then, but there were some fucking really hilarious inventions.
I think we do it next week. I think we need to start just doing one topic per show. We alternate.
Yeah.
Because we're too fucking long-winded, you and me.
Dude, we're at 2 hours and 18 minutes. So
Holy shit.
hope you guys enjoyed the show. We're going to go ahead and sign off. Check us out on social media. And most importantly, until next time, be terrible.